This episode of the Humans of Agriculture podcast is part of our partnership with Livestock SA's Agri-Resilience program. Across the series, we wanted to bring a variety of people and stories together to improve strategic planning and long-term resilience for forward-looking South Australian livestock and broadacre enterprises. To find out more, the Agri-Resilience program is open for applications and you can apply by heading to www.livestocksa.org.au. Richie Kirkland. Mate, it's great to sit down with you, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about your business, what it's like to travel the world as a shearer, and obviously what you're up to today. As we're chatting just before, you've got a couple of kids that have coming and going, and one staying at the moment. So, mate, welcome. It's good to have you on for a chat.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Richie, I guess, can you just explain? I've had the chance to drive through, only a small part of the southeast last night, and then obviously this morning, a few deer running around. Can you explain to people who mightn't have been this way, like what is this area like, and what's it like farming here?
It's a mixed farming area. There is a bit of horticulture around with spuds and onions. A lot of livestock. There is mixed farming with cropping around there as well. It's a very productive area of Australia. With the shearing, I've shorn over most of Australia, and I still come back to this area, and it amazes me what the food it produces. Clean green food for Australia, like it's unbelievable area. Seem to always get a rain. Not a bit this year; it was a bit late, but hopefully a spring will set us up. But it just amazes me what this area produces.
And how long have your family been farming here for?
We come down here from the mid north in 1979, so I was only a kid at the time, and sort of took over a soldier settler block, and been here ever since.
And for you grew up, you wanted to be a farmer. It was what your calling was?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was pretty good as a kid, belting around farms and motorbikes and homemade buggies and stuff like that, and you can go out and shoot a rabbit when you're a kid and stuff like that. Probably at the time, the farm wasn't quite big enough to come home to, so I sort of had to find another income source. So I went rouseabout and learnt to shear.
What was it? Was it just like, what was it that drew you into shearing? Was it just that you were kind of familiar with it, or it was?
Yeah. I think my father did a bit of shearing as well, and just could see the income source. Off farm's pretty easy. You didn't have to be highly educated to become a shearer, but I think it does help nowadays to know what to do with that money they're making. We do shearing schools here, and we try to push that along to the young kids. Look, you're going to be making a lot of money pretty fast. You've got to be able to do something with it and not just blow it on vehicles and other luxury items. So, which is, I probably shore for probably 8 years solid, I think. Once I left here, I didn't really come home much. I sort of left for about 8 years, and and then probably the last couple of years be just seasonal shearing. If the winter time here was too wet to do any work spraying or with the crops or sheep or something, I used to shoot up the mallee for a couple of weeks of the year just to earn a bit of pocket money. So, I just sort of keep promoting to the young fellas now, just try to save it and do something with your money.
Because one thing that, when I look at shearers, I just think I was saying it before, I would love to put like an elite athlete next to a shearer for a day and just see how they stack up. How'd you go doing it for 8 years?
I think of fitness, it was always hard. The first, if I didn't do it, stopped for a few weeks. Getting the fitness up again was hard work. While I was playing sport and shearing, it was no worries at all. It was a lot easier. You just bounce out of bed in the mornings and ready to go. But we were young, in the early 18, 19, 20s, I was lucky enough to be shearing with a crew in the Western District, so we were mad on playing footy, going fishing, surfing and stuff like that. They didn't want to hit the pubs, which sort of kept us fit as well. We weren't wasting money, every night in the pub or on the weekends. So we saved a lot of money doing that just by getting out and about and meeting people. But yeah, it is your fitness is really, they do hone that now with the shearer training. A lot more stretching going on. A lot more. You see a lot more shearers now getting home after work and hitting the gym, and pushing weights and do a bit of cardio, a bit of running, stuff like that. So they are professional at what they do. They want to make a lot of money quickly while they can. I think the shearer training, they're trying to encourage shearers, by the time they're 40, start thinking about a different occupation. Your body can only do it for so long. It's no different to playing football. You sort of want to get into it, stay fit, and get out again.
So what were some of the changes that you saw in the industry? And I like when you said there that you guys weren't hitting the pub and whatnot, that seems like you guys were definitely ahead of your time.
Yeah, I was lucky, I think. Just happened to be lucky. Went with a crew that weren't heavy drinkers and just loved their fishing and football and hunting and sport and stuff like that. So surfing, we used to go to the beaches most weekends. I was very lucky to be with that crew. I think as a young person, you can be led astray quite easy, and you see it happen a lot nowadays. You see young shearers getting with the wrong crew, the wrong crowd, and they tend to be bloody tend to waste a lot of money and have got nothing at the other end. So yeah.
How have you seen the industry change from?
I was probably brought up with that transition into the wide gear. So fan age, sort of probably 17, 18. In Victoria there, it was still pretty union orientated. We had to sign on at the start of the sheds, promised to be there the whole shed and stuff like that, buy a union ticket. Not so much nowadays, that's all gone by the wayside a bit, but sort of wide gear was coming in. A lot of the combs and handpieces we're using were still sort of getting developed, so we didn't have real good gear at the time, but we put up with what we had. It was still better than probably narrow gear. The technique now with the training, we were sort of self-taught back then. You'd walk up and down the board watching the better shearers, trying to copy them, whereas now with shearing schools, the kids are taught properly straight from the start, and you can just see the benefits no end. Just that technique is getting, and the gear is really good. They're getting taught the gear maintenance. We didn't know how to look after handpieces. We thought they lasted forever. Now they maintain them and service them, put service kits through every few months. All that sort of things. It's a lot more professional now than what it was. Even though with COVID we sort of struggled with shearers because of we couldn't get the New Zealanders to come across. But and I think that's where we had to step up ourselves with the training side. We've got kids out there that want to do this and are capable of doing it. Like, they don't want to be at school, they don't really go to uni, but they want to get out and work. So they're the ones we've got to target nowadays.
Yeah, the ones, because it's one of those industries, isn't it? It's been talked about forever that robotics and automation might come in, but it's still yet to be seen.
Well, they're working on the injection again, like they had BioClip years ago, which you had to put a net on. It was labour intensive and wasn't ideal. And now they've worked on another needle that's creating a break. But I saw a trial or a bit of a research thing done at Faulkner Research, and they still, the machine to get the wool off of that was like a handpiece. They had to push it along by hand and pluck the wool off by hand in front of it. So I thought, well, that's still no better off than what we're doing now. So until they feed it through an automatic machine and pluck the wool off, I'm sort of not too excited just yet. So we're still got to concentrate on that shearer training. So probably one thing with that we have trouble with is that the kids we target, to get them into a learner school here, they have to be 16 years of age. And probably the kids we're not after, but we probably should be getting is the ones that are about 15 that just hate school and they get kicked out or bloody muck up, so they get expelled. They're off down the streets, getting strife, and they just get in that roller coaster ride of bad habits and hanging around bad people. And they're the ones we sort of need to get into the schools. I think even though we're not allowed to take them at 15, I reckon they're the ones we want to target.
Did you learn any tough lessons when you're in the sheds with some of the people?
You just got told to do your job. You weren't allowed to muck up. Yesterday when we were shearing rams here, a good mate of mine, he comes out, Ricky Wilson, and we shore together a bit, and we were both brought up about the same era. You know, we were working for contractors. If you didn't turn up to work, you didn't have a job the next day. Like, you couldn't just roll in whenever you want and then or turn up late and all that. You had to be there on time. And that was before mobile phones or anything. So you got told to be at this shed, could be way out back of Burke, and you had to find your own way there. And you had to be there on the Monday. And if you didn't turn up, you'd name me mud. You wouldn't get a job with any other contractor. And, yeah, you'd be struggling at work. So you just turn up, did your thing, did your job, and went home. There was no dramas at all in the sheds, really. So, yeah, whereas nowadays they come and go a little bit and pick their sheds, which sort of surprised me. Back when I was shearing, well, this shed here, we used to shear, I think the peak we got was 14,000 wethers for 4 shearers. So, you know, that was a bit of an eye-opener when you had to shear merino wethers for probably 6 weeks straight as a learner. But, you know, that's just what we did. We didn't know any different. Now, if you see wethers in the shed and you start hearing the boys starting to grizzle. So, anyway, that's just the way it is nowadays.
Wet sheep.
Yeah, sheep. Work for work.
Was there one shed that you absolutely loved going to? Was there a shed like, that you see on the pictures, a heap of stands, a lot of people?
Bannigal Station was always good in the Western Districts. There's a few sheds down here, down at Skipton Way, Terranellum South. That was always good. Though probably good more because we were on rivers, and we'd go fishing after work, and there's about 1 million rabbits over there. The rabbit shooter used to leave when we'd be knocking off work. He'd be heading off out, and he'd come back in the mornings as we were going to work, and he'd have 100 pair of rabbit every night. So we used to duck down to Warrnambool and Torquay and stuff like that and go surfing on the weekends. So, yeah, so that was pretty good. Just the lifestyle of that was pretty good. Yeah, but, you know, like your Mallee sheds and your mid-north sheds we used to do up around Balaclava, just great people. Using small sheds, you know, 2 or 3 shearers, and just great people. You just yak away all day with them, and they appreciate you being there, and they couldn't do enough for you. And you used to like those sheds. And I got mates that I never used to went to the West Coast at all shearing, but they used to go there every year, and they said the same thing. Just the people are so great. The farmers are so appreciative of what you do. Yeah.
And one thing which I didn't know existed, but you're involved in it. Australia has a shearing team, so we're off the back of the Olympics. Where does the Australian shearing team compete?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, they talked about. I think they bought it shearing into the Olympics in LA back in the early 80s, I think, as a demo sport, but it never really carried on from there. So, whereas in New Zealand, it is huge. That was an eye-opener as well. I sort of got into a bit of competition shearing when I was shearing in West Australia. Just a fella said, "Oh, you come out, what are you up to this week?" I said, "Well, not much at all. We're bloody too far from the coast to go fishing, and West Australia, she's a big state." And he said, "Come, I'm going down to the local shearing comp. Do you want to come have a go?" And I was like, "Oh, righto." And yeah, and did all right that first comp. I think I got a first in intermediate because I was only about 20 or something at the time. And yeah, got back over the eastern states here and sort of did a few more comps around Victoria and accumulated enough points. And I was a under 21 shearer for the Australian team and got everything paid for to go to New Zealand. And the first week we spent training at various sheds, and it was sort of a February or March time, I reckon. We were supposed to shear. Tickaweti was the main shearing comp. We also had a few smaller comps prior. But I was probably a bit unfit at the time. I'd been here for harvest and working and had a couple of months off and got over there, and yeah, I had to really up the game then. Like, we were shearing sheep in under a minute to be competitive. So, right. Yeah, first shed I went there with Dion Morrell. He's a pretty handy shearer, and I think we walked into the pen at the same time. By the time I caught my sheep and got him out on the board, he'd already done his. So, yeah, I thought, well, here we go. We've just got to get the fitness going again. I went for runs most nights and just trying to get the hand speed going. And by the end of it, we were, up there competitive again. But, yeah, should have started a bit earlier probably.
For the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, but it was an eye-opener. Like, the competitions go for 2 or 3 days there. After the events, there's no getting around in thongs and shorts and singlets. You got to put the dress clothes on. your green and golds. You're talking to the Prime Minister in New Zealand at the time, so we got to meet him a few times. Yeah, so it is well promoted over there. And nowadays, you just see it. They have the World Championships, whether it's in Wales or England or Scotland, Australia, and yeah, it's well organised, and it probably should be almost an Olympic sport or world sport, because the shearers are just travelling the world nowadays. Young blokes locally here, like there's one young fella from Beachport, and I think he's in Wales or England at the moment, working over there and tripping around, loving it.
God, half his luck. One question I need to ask you: what was your best ever day? How many sheep?
I think probably not the day. We always used to run out of sheep a lot of the time here in Western District. I think it was well over 100 a run. I know that. So yeah. But that was a long time ago, and there's no hope of that.
So what was it that spurred the transition to come home? What was the opportunity that ended up bringing you back?
Probably we bought another property while I was shearing, so we sort of the workload increased here. Because of borrowing money, of course, at the time to buy these properties, I sort of kept shearing for a bit, and then I sort of we started a cropping program here because the wool, the reserve price scheme in the 90s, sort of 80s, 90s collapsed, and we were all merino weathers here then. So we stuck with it, and my father stuck with it for a few years, probably a few more years too long. We probably should have swapped to a meat-producing animal a lot sooner. We had cattle, of course. We implemented the cropping program, which sort of, at the time, we had to upgrade machinery for that. We were using contractors, and that was getting a bit expensive and timely. I think my first cropping, I had a 21-road shearer drill with an old blast tractor, and used to sit out there for frigging days on end sowing crops. So, and my first boom spray was a home-built, tray-mounted boom spray. So it's just what we had at the time and could afford and, did a bit of shearing in between to try to pay for it all. So after that, we sort of upgraded machinery. I had a spray unit and started contract spraying. And that was sort of a bit of a game changer too. That sort of led to retirement of shearing full time. Running a contract business, whether it was seeding and spraying. We had a lot of clients locally, just not a lot, but it was enough to help pay for machinery and help pay for farms.
And was there a plan that you guys, like you and your old man, sat down with to work through?
Yeah. Probably not really. He was a traditional merino man, like merino weathers and steers, just dry stock. He didn't really know about ewes and lambs and stuff like that. And the cropping side he didn't really know about. He was sort of brought up in cropping country, but that was back probably in the 70s, where they used to rip country up and work it back and stuff like that. So I sort of run with it and just sort of kept going. Yeah.
Was it hard to convince him to go through that change?
Not really. I think you sort of, when you stick with wool for so long and you're not making much money, it's sort of, you got to try something different. So and I used to hit the figures a bit, but he was sort of not a budgets man at all. So he's just sort of ran by instinct a bit, but I used to like to see the figures side of things and try to make it stack up.
If I was to have seen the business at the time, was it very much like a quick, sharp adjustment, or did you start to bring
staggered? Yeah, it did take time. Yeah. So now we went for a sort of a merino ewe flock for a while and found they struggle a bit in the high rainfall areas with the sheep we were buying. We were sort of buying in ewes, which out of the mallee. Good frame ewes, and but after a few years, their structure, their feet sort of went with the high rainfall areas. It gets extremely wet in these subclover flats. We haven't got a lot of high country to hide them in the wintertime. So we've sort of slowly swapped to a first cross ewe flock, more self-replacing, and then the last probably 5-6 years, we've swapped into a composite flock, and self-replacing and finding them a hardy animal. They handle it. They're tough. I'm still learning how hard I can push them. This year we've really pushed it, tested the limits with a late break. We've sort of started feeding in February and haven't stopped since. So through lambing, we were feeding 7 days a week, and lamb percentage were up there, above average. So we got through not too bad, even though the ewes are doing it pretty tough and the lambs are behind on their weights on normal. We're just hoping for a wet spring now.
So when you said it was like a bit of a learning and you're pushing them this year, is it like, so this season being dry actually held you back quite a bit.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we try to keep the stocking rates up, try to push things along a bit for income wise. But yeah, it's bloody this year really tested out. Normally the single ewes really do it, like, and run them really hard, and they do it easy. But this year, even though I nearly doubled them up in paddocks, I wouldn't have done other years. And yeah, they got through, but yeah, they feel it now. So yeah, but they're starting. We'll hopefully get a good spring. They'll recover, get them all in them again, and go again. So yeah.
Did you find this year that, like, did you have a plan with different kind of decision points throughout?
Yeah, we stuck with it a bit. Probably, I was talking to you earlier before, lifetime ewe's been a game changer for the prime lamb industry and the sheep industry altogether. Like, I did it a long, long time ago. I think I did one course, then I had workman come another year, so I went along with him and did it again. I thought, well, I learnt so much the second time around as well, and then, like, my two kids that come home, they'd both done it, and various on-farm trainees we've had here, they've all done it. We've hosted it numerous times, and numerous field days. They come here checking out the confinement pens and stuff like that, and fat scoring, and it's just been an absolute game changer monitoring things like that. Like, we got trigger points with certain amount of feed in the paddocks. Like, if it gets under 1,200, kilograms a hectare dry matter in January, February, we start sort of thinking about putting them into the pens, locking them up. So we try to keep a bit of ground cover there. The twins will go all into the pens. The singles will stay out there, and they tend to tough it out and clean up paddocks that, might have surplus dry feed. So, and of course, the trigger point for them to come out of the pens is they're about to start lambing. So this year we normally like to get them out there and 1,200 kilos of green feed, out there, but 1,500 kilos. But this year they had to go out. It was green, but it was short, and we probably only had 600 kilos all the way through, I think. So, and it's only just starting to kick a bit now. Probably only 900 kilos dry matter there at the moment.
So when you say you put them in the pens in containment feeding, like, why do you do that? Like,
just to get them off the paddocks. They can, like the sub-country, they can start digging it up looking for the seed. So just to look after it. I like to have a little bit of ground cover left there. Once it's gone, it's gone. And probably seen that years ago. I used to dust the paddocks up, what they call dust. The old fellas used to dust them up with big heap of sheep, and it wasn't a pretty sight, to be honest. I like seeing a bit of ground cover left there at the end of the year. So, and the confinement pens just allow you to monitor their fat scores, their feed. They're close. The confinement pens are close to the yards here. If we've got any animal health treatments we have to do, we can just run them in at any time and do it. We tend to put them in the confinement pens after a couple of weeks. We'll bring them out again and do another fat score, and they'll go into groups, fat score groups then. So anything they're doing a little bit tougher or a shy feeder will get looked after a little bit more than those ewes that just are good doers. Even the other day I was sort of just vaccinating a few lambs, and a couple of ewes are in a twin mob, and a fat score 4 or 5 in a year like this, and I thought, oh, she must be dry, and I grabbed her udder, and she had 2 lambs hanging off her, but just a good ewe, like they're the ones where the EID tags and stuff like that are going to come in and change, they're the ones we want to retain lambs from, ewe lambs.
Yeah, they become your stud flock.
Yeah, they do. we concentrate on rams too much, and we really going to have to start ramping up on the ewes. And because they're 50% of the genetics, and if they can have 2 massive ewe lambs that are good doers and look after their lambs, they're the ones we want.
How would you approach it? And I know it's a bit of a hypothetical, but say if this year was a real failure and you didn't get any, or even say next year with no rain, like, what stage do you make choices to either reduce head count or when it comes to letting them back out into the paddock for lambing?
Once you start lambing, that's it. You're done and dusted. So you're committed. So you got to jam the feed into them, which is what we did this year. I think probably in hindsight, while they were still in containment, it very rarely happens this season in the southeast. Like, this is once in 100 years. So and I keep telling young fellas, you get through this year, you'll get through anything, because there's a few young blokes, thinking about it, it's pretty dire there for a while. And we all got through, but we had to pour the feed into them. But yeah, once they're in containment, I'd probably, if we knew, probably sort of May, June, if we haven't got a break, but then I'd probably drag them out and mouth the cull ewes, and pull out any older ewes. We found the older ewes did it really tough this year, whereas the younger sheep, no worries at all. They seem to be able to bounce back. So I think, you'd probably cull your older ewes, and at weaning time we'll be doing that straight away. They'll be gone, I think. We'll get the flock younger again, and we've got plenty of ewe lambs coming through. They're lambing at the moment on next to nothing, so there's a big heap on the paddock, but they're in good condition. The condition score's good. They're spitting out lambs left, right, and centre. So that's where I can see the future. Just making the flock a lot younger.
They're the keepers. Ooh. And then, so with a year like this, like as you said, you guys were feeding 7 days a week, but you're also getting quite a lot of messages and also trying to be a support to others. Do you find that you have to be quite deliberate with like making that time to, one, be able to help yourself, but to help others as well? Yeah.
It's normally not to, mobile phones are a game changer nowadays. You drive around the ute with the feed cart in the back and make phone calls all day. So it is good like that. But we made a decision to, a lot of the time, once they're out of containment, we don't feed. That's it. Might bit of hay or silage, but bugger all. But this year, I thought, well, there's no feed for them. They need something, especially the twin mobs. And we went 7 days a week, and we found that it was chaos going in there with the feed cart. But you went back in the afternoon on the bike for a checkup, and they're all mothered up again, wandering around. So I think feeding 7 days a week, the ewes are sort of content. If they were on the point of lambing, they'd wander off down the back of the paddock, have their lamb, hang around for a day or two, then back into the feed as they got hungry again. So a few people around to stalk, and they sort of threw hay out for the 7 days lambing, didn't go there, and a few tried silage, and then a few every second day. And everybody had mixed results, and it was a steep learning curve. Some were good and some were disasters. So like feeding 7 days a week with what we decided to do could have been an absolute disaster. But we did lamb marking there a few weeks ago, and results are on par with every other year.
Yeah, well, it gives you something to work to and learn from anyway.
Yeah.
You touched on it earlier around running like shearing schools and whatnot, but you are really passionate about helping out young farmers coming through. Yeah,
that's right. Like I said, lifetime ewe, any of those grazing for profit courses and stuff like that, like just the training nowadays. Like I probably come home from shearing and there was nothing like that years ago. McKillop Group was just starting up. That was more cropping orientated. There wasn't a lot of livestock groups. It was sort of just what you learn as you went. Nowadays, it's just unbelievable. Yeah, learn all those things straight up and get it right. Yeah. So, like I said, I found a Feck Pack worm egg count testing kit in the back of a shearing shed one day where I was working at a fella's place, and he actually didn't use it and gave it to me. So I bought the microscope home, had an old VHS video I was supposed to watch, and I couldn't get that to work in anything. So that was gone out the window. They had a good book and a big dot point list you had to work through to do the process, and I started doing worm egg counting bloody close to 20 years ago now, and just haven't looked back. That's just a game changer as well. Like, I just encourage that many people just to, if you've got any doubts with your sheep, just grab the sample, run it to town or your local vet, or do it yourself. Don't just drench because it's on, that's what you did every year pre-lamb. Some of our ewes here, we haven't drenched for, since they were lambs. So, they could be 5, 6 year old now, and still come up, under 100 eggs per gram. So that's my trigger point now. If they get above that, I'd re-monitor again. I don't drench, I'll re-monitor. So, yeah.
And it seems like, well, what you're saying, the key thing is that now, not nowadays, all your decisions are made off something like objective and factual.
Yeah, they are. And also, egg counts, I've found they can go up a little bit while they're lambing. They can sneak up a bit, and whether it's a stress-related thing. These, like I said, these composites are pretty tough. They're reading them for worm resilience and stuff like that. So that's why I'm sort of monitoring them more and more, just trying to track the way the egg counts are flowing through the years. So trying to push them along, and if they do get up a bit, if they're in good nick, I thought, well, maybe I'll just leave them and see what happens here. Yeah, but you just got to keep measuring. Same as pasture growth, keep measuring. I've cages out there. I move every bloody few days to see what it's doing. So, yeah, just hoping it's moving. But you get the odd frost every now and then, like last week, and all of a sudden we're back to square one again. So,
when you say you got cages out of the paddock, what do you mean by that?
they're just lamb rings. When I pull a lamb, I just got a mesh cage out the paddock and I put her in there for a day or two, and they stay out there all year round. So I'll just go out there on the bike when I shift sheep and drag them to one side and measure the pasture growth. Yeah, just with the old MLA ruler, as good as anything. So, yeah, pasture cuts are probably more accurate, but yeah, I'm sort of in a bit too much of a rush to cut a square every now and then and dry it out. So, yeah.
You haven't worked out where it sits along your shin to go,
Not that good. No. I'd like to see it. I think another good analogy the other day was if you put your lawnmower over and it went into the catcher, I think, you could work it out with that, how much is there, but I don't know, it's still too short out here at the moment. So it is growing, but it's short.
End up stalling the lawnmower.
It is, yeah. And probably, like I said, lifetime you. Shearer training, passionate about that. You've got to teach these kids right from the start. It is hard. It is the hardest job I've ever done in my life. And if you throw them in there and just say, here you go, young fella, here's a handpiece, comb and cutter, big mob merino, whether it's a crutch or shear or something like that, they're just not going to stay in the industry, So you got to teach them right from the start. They get composite ewe hoggets here. They're nice little sheep, bit fizzy, but at least they can handle them and put a blow in nice and easy. So by Wednesday afternoon, a lot of the kids here are all shearing a full sheep, and by Friday they're all racing each other trying to get under 5 minutes. So, I think the instructors nowadays are really professional. They're the footwork, the technique is unbelievable. The gear, they train them to grind properly. Whereas years ago we had, I think, a lot of experts in the shed, so-called experts, and poor old wool presser was probably had to do all the grinding, and you didn't know what you're going to get back when you give him your combs and cutters. And so, but nowadays they've all got their own grinders and stuff like that. And it's totally changed.
Get the right equipment and it makes the job easier.
Yeah.
What do you think for you personally has been the biggest benefit or change that you've had in farming that benefits you most today?
Oh, just seeing the next generation come through. Yeah, like I'm turned 50 and all of a sudden your eyesight starts going and you're getting hard to get out of bed in the mornings. And I used to bounce out, but once upon a time, and even now, shearing a mob of killers, I used to run them in and just shear the rams or the killers one day every now and then, but now I sort of look for someone to come and give me a hand. So just seeing the next generation come through, training them up, seeing young farmers, buy a farm, they take on a bit of debt and they buy a farm and, expand their businesses. So it's always good to see that side of things.
And so what are your goals here? What do you guys have on the horizon?
Probably keep expanding the business. We bought a couple more 1,000 acres there a few years ago, so probably still paying for that for the rest of my life. But anyway, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. Like I couldn't see me moving into the city at any stage. So probably keep expanding the business, encourage the next generation to come on farm, and yeah.
And so, who's in the business today, and what roles do they play?
Me and my wife Nikki. My son Brody's here at the moment. We get casuals in every now and then to give us a hand. Contractors every now and then. So we realise we can't do it all ourselves. My daughter Talia is working in New South Wales at the moment for a bit of experience. So hoping she'll come home at some stage, and she's pretty handy with the livestock side and all the monitoring and stuff like that. So it'd be good to have her step up as well. She's mad on sheepdogs. We have a dog school here every year. We've had for the last 3 or 4 years, and trying to teach young farmers to look after their dogs. They're a big asset, especially with sheep. Yeah, so, and that's also been game changer here. I did a dog school with Neil McDonald bloody 30 odd years ago, and thinking I knew how to work dogs, so I worked in the shearing shed. Well, that was an eye opener as well. I had no idea what I was doing. So Neil taught us all how to train dogs straight from the start, the right way to do it. And with Talia and Brody, they sort of come home from school, and a few staff turn up with dogs running around everywhere. And thought, well, I'm no good at teaching dog schools. I know how to teach a shearer to shear a sheep, but I'm no good at dog schools. So I thought we'll hold dog schools here and get these young people taught properly straight up by proper instructors. So yeah, and that's also helped things. Everybody's on the same page in the yards. Sheep work's not a big chore anymore. We can process sheep, no worries at all. No headaches, no yelling, no yahooing. So yeah, it does make it a lot easier.
It seems like a big thing that, and a bit of a theme for you has been about going, well, what do I know? But then also even saying the shearing side of things, it's getting other people who are the experts or just have a different way of doing it to come in and help.
Yeah, there are people out there, and you just got to source them, and be like the consultants that run the Lifetime U schools, the Ilky Hockings and Ash Hunts and Tim Leemings and Ken Solly, the legend. They're all got mobile phones nowadays. If you've got any questions, just give them a ring and ask them. So they're there, and they love doing what they're doing. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Richie, thank you so much for sitting down and having a chat.
Yeah, no worries.
Cheers, mate.